This is a clearer video on the trending issue, or should I say the basgos that is going on between Dr. Ruben Abati of Arise News and the Igbos, based on the comment he made on the issue of whether Igbo people sell land to non-indigene or not. Now, Professor Ikechukwu is an Igbo man who was interviewed in the same Arise News program, and when he was asked questions about the same issue, he did justice to it, and he went forward to say that this is not the case at all. In fact, he even quoted the same issue that Dr. Ruben Abati was quoting about TOS Benson, who said that his in-laws refused to sell land for him to build a house for his wife and his daughter. And he said that the same TOS Benson have land in his in-law place. In fact, this same land is not even sold to him. It was given to him free of charge. Now, how come somebody who refused to sell land for you later give you land free of charge? Think about it. But anyway, let me allow you to listen to Professor Ikechukwu on how he dealt with this issue. And after that, I'll be back. But as you are listening, do well to share and also subscribe to my channel if you have never done so. For more updates, let's go there.
That's why my first set of questions to you, Prof, will be to give your candid opinion on the subject matter, which of course will be the land identity as it connects with Igbo culture, using issues at hand as context. And the context, as you know,
the anchor.
Well, there are two issues here. First will be what the late elder statesman, who was, a one-time information minister, TOS Benson, said at a public forum quite a while ago about the fact that is neither his wife nor his daughter, his wife, of course, who is Igbo, and the daughter will be half Igbo and half Yoruba, that he was unable to get a landed property for them in Igbo land because his in-laws informed him that they do not sell land to outsiders. And you know that was the context in which our own Dr. Ruben Abati, made reference to how industrious and how mobile the Igbo people can be, but when it comes to their own territory, it looks like they are always pretty reluctant in yielding landed property to outsiders. So two things here. Is this a case of truth conveyed in a manner that was uncomfortable to a number of people, or there's no fact around this subject matter at all? Whichever way you look at it, how will you describe what TOS Benson said at the time that he did, knowing that he was not a flippant person, knowing that it affected his family, and knowing that it's still, a subject matter that a lot of people are still talking about today? What are your thoughts on this very naughty debate?
Well, I'll begin by contextualizing Ruben's observations. Then I'll touch on TOS Benson himself, some other statements and activities associated with him in connection with land. Then I'll raise core issues about why it is not always easy to get land in some areas, and what those of us who are actually from the Southeast, the challenge we have among ourselves about land, beginning with Ruben. Yes, like you said, he started by pointing out some good things about the people from that part of the country. Then he made a reference to the comments of TOS Benson. Ruben was not speaking as Ruben Abati. It was reported speech. In other words, he was telling us what he heard. That's number one. Number two, there's then the perception, okay, if a man as Benson would say this, there's also the possibility that this is factually correct. But that's if what Benson said. You've said he's not a flippant person. That is correct. But what if in that instance, actually, the statement is not correct? And I asked that question knowing for a fact TOS Benson's in-laws and Biri people. That's the place of the former Minister of Education, Obaji, the husband Sam. We spoke about some of these things. He is their in-law. He was their in-law. Now, when I marry your daughter and I come to you for land, should you look at me as a possible source of income, or should you consider the fact that my daughter is in your custody? In fact, rather than sell land to you, I'll give one to you. The closer my daughter is, the easier it is for me to be sure she's being well taken care of. So for the record and for all of us, Mbiri people gave land, donated land to Chief Benson at Oriem Mbiri, which he used, in fact, at his own discretion to construct a post office for the people. And the structure is still there. So recontextualization Ruben did not set out to misinform anybody by the statement he made, but he was correctly quoting Chief Benson. Now, so let us also get it to that point. And then when the altercation, if you like that expression, between him and his colleague, brilliant presenter, the young lady, remember he said, in a bit of anger, which was a little too heated, that if others, apparently he has some other sources, and if others have, let them present anthropological evidence. Now the point there is this. You can carry out a research on the behavior of Gwagwalada people. That research will require field work. The result you get will depend on whom you interviewed. And if later I read that work, I'll say, oh, Gwagwalada people have these qualities. And I make this with, I recall that 2019, yes, I was in charge of Tambuwal's campaign for president, and some people came and presented in poll results with 58% showing that Nigerians wanted him to be president. I told him, Your Excellency, this is a non-starter. He said, how? Delegate elections is not a popular election. So you carry out a poll among people in the street, everyone knows who they are, and you come to say, which Nigerians? So you get the point that even where you have anthropological evidence of the sort, secured through polls and research and questionnaires, it doesn't guarantee anything. Why I take this trajectory is for us not to. There's what you call reported speech. In interpretative writing, when I make a statement and you say, okay, Ikechukwu said, you're conveying what I said. If I now say, okay, Ikechukwu said, and I agree, I'm endorsing, I'm taking ownership. So having contextualized it from the origin of the expression itself, that it was a narrated story, I've also presented counterfactual that the man actually had land donated to him. I will add that the former director of works at the Federal University of Technology in Owerri has land in Owerri that he bought. That's where he lives. He's a farmer today. If you go to Owerri, you have the Rotibi Street off Douglas Road. That street is named after a Yoruba man who back then bought practically the entire area. He was a great entrepreneur. Those Igbo, the Igbo people who own lands in those areas bought it from him. Then, of course, you recall that Umaru Atine Alaji was a mayor of Enugu sometime in the 60s, or was it 50s now? He was also in charge of land allocation. Igbos didn't meet and sell him, don't sell to outsiders. If you go to Enugu today, the one area, Garki area, people from all over the country have land there. So there's, I think even for me personally, when I watched the controversy, I said, thank you, Ruben, because this has thrown up a matter on which there should be national discourse. More people will gain information and will all be the better for it. That's the essential point. The second one is about land generally. You know, why would anybody, you say, oh, you know, but if you go to the East, you don't have too many people who are not Easterners who have land. And the question is, why is it that people have land elsewhere? Because there's business elsewhere. Tell me, what federal establishments do you have in Enugu, in all over the Southeast, that will make me leave my place in Yoruba land to come and buy land? Is it to be a villager? So we must also see the connection between national infrastructure, national institutions, national political headquarters, etc. The limited absence of that in the Southeast makes the land there totally unattractive for anybody to procure. Why are Igbos buying up lands in Lagos? Because they need it. And I speak from some involvement in what's going on at that area of business. Little Road used to be made up of a couple of tiny bungalows. The same with Enowa Street. Go to Enowa today, there's no building there that's less than 2-story buildings. Check the history, you'll find out that it was the traders who went to negotiate with most of the people. Allow me build a 2-story building here. I will use it for warehousing. You live in part of it. After 10 years, it becomes yours and I begin to rent. And I speak because I know those who did that, some of them who were direct relations. That's how most of those places got built up. You may also recall that Ndubisi Kanu, an Igbo man at a point he was governor, actually met with the people, called them to a meeting and said, stop selling land. Do leases. Make this arrangement. That's when this alternative thing came up. Now, an Igbo man will not go to Newe and build a 2-story building to store his things because there's no port near him. He'll be throwing his money away. So all of that, you can take it into account. Why would I leave Kanu to come and buy land in Imo State or in Anambra State? Am I on drugs? There is nothing going on in those places. So the political economy of the Nigerian state is also partly responsible for the things we are blaming on other things. Now, putting all of that aside even, let's pretend all of this doesn't exist. National infrastructure. The rail system of any nation is at the arteries of that country. Do you have rail in Nigeria? Yes. Do you have it in the Southeast? No. Did you used to have it in the Southeast? Yes. How did some of us know places like Saminaka, Kajuru, Lafia, etc.? It was because we traveled by road. You don't have that anymore. And so, putting that aside as well, let's come to the issue of land. You say, oh, you know, landholding system. No, I'm not going to talk about landholding system, but I'm going to talk about personal experience. The Southeast is land choked. The land is not available. You go to most places of in the southeast, you find that people bury in their compounds. My parents are no more. One of my sisters is no more. They are buried in the old family compound. My cousin Ide has a section of his land he uses for that. So there are other things to be understood. First, the land is not available. Where is available and you want to buy it, you buy. Go to Onitsha. Onitsha Business School is owned by Shogbeson. Professor Shogbeson is a Yoruba man. He started it in 2010. So it's not like saying, oh, it's only in the 60s, you know. These days, they are not doing it. Today, it is thriving as one of the best business schools, working with the people. Last week, I went there to give the keynote address on innovative entrepreneurship for under 45s. Most of those who came were the people in the environment. You wouldn't know he doesn't belong there. So, in essence, taking it, in that trajectory, what has emerged is a perception that was fueled or is being fueled by people who talk about it. Ruben diligently acknowledged the virtues of the Igbos he knew. Put a however based on a story by Chief Benson. Looking back at it, I don't know whether Chief Benson meant it in jest, but the fact that he has land actually donated to him by Imbiri people, who are now right now, in fact, I understand, very, very angry about all of this, that they are being misrepresented, where he went out of his way to build them a post office on that land, etc. And also the cultural practice.
Well, Prof.
That your in-law wants land near you.
Prof, sir, if I may cut in quickly,
I'm here.
On the Imbiri part that you mentioned, and the post office that the late TOS Benson built, was that his intention? I think that the speech that he gave in Lagos had to do with the fact that he wanted to buy a parcel of land for his wife and for his daughter. You have, clarified that he got a donation of a land, from his in-laws. That would certainly be correct given the context that you have given to it. But for the land that he wanted to buy for his wife and for his daughter, do we have any contrary opinion against what he has said and the fact that he was unable to do that?
Okay, let me.
Yes, go on, sir, go on.
I have no interest in defending either Benson or Imbiri people or Ruben. I'm concerned to see if we can be objective in understanding all of this. Chief Benson is not here to be interrogated, so we can't say for sure to what extent all of this, his own reaction. Why would you donate land to a man you refuse to sell land to? At the time he was buying bricks to build, did he write "I'm building a post office"? In fact, if you refuse to sell land to him, that's the more reason why you will not donate land to him. If it's what he wants to do with it is not right. People don't understand the relationship. Remember, Chief Benson lived in Port Harcourt for part of his life. The father of his wife, the late Chinyere, also lived in Port Harcourt. That's how the relationship began. One basic thing about the people, he was one of their most loved friends. And I use the word friend consciously because the entire people held him as one of their own. So, the land. So to now say, they donated land to him to build post office, but they didn't sell land to him to build a house. Let's recontextualize it. A good in-law. He comes to buy land. You say to Fiakwa, it's abomination.
Professor,
We are donating land to you,
question.
and they gave him a piece of land.
I'd like to ask a question, particularly when it comes to land and inheriting, because I want to ask, does this have to do with it being for a woman, his wife, or for his daughter? Because I know just not long ago in Igbo land, women couldn't inherit from their fathers according in some places. So could this have to do with gender? Do we have different views on what women can own in different parts of the country?
No. The question of gender is practically global, African and Nigerian. There's a tendency to treat the female gender as the junior partner or a no partner or as part of the man's property. And the inheritance thing is all over the place and all over the country. So it's not an Igbo thing. Secondly, an Igbo woman can build on his land. Supposing, and this is a cultural thing in the East, you have a man who doesn't have a daughter and who one of the daughters decides, okay, I want to keep the family name, and she marries a wife in the name of the family, and so she remains, quote unquote, the man in the place. But I want to take it around so that we see this whole thing about inheritance. I'm from the East. I'm the first son of my parents. By a law of inheritance, everything they left belongs to me. But I called a family meeting and said, well, there are 6 of us here. Everything Papa and Mama have left belongs to me. Is there any dispute about that? Everybody said no. I said good. From my own understanding and the spiritual orientation I lead by, we are 6. If I'm the most irresponsible among you, nobody will take this from me. I can squash it in 2 weeks. Now, I want to divide it into 6. Each person takes his part because we're all equal. He had 6 children. You know, after I said that, a total stranger had said, well, we heard about what you're going to do. Are you also going to give the same to everybody, irrespective of gender? So there are such things. And that's what I did. Split it into 6. Everybody equal component. Somebody proposed, oh, since you maintain some of those things, you know, over the years, and rebuild this one for Papa did this, why don't you take the value? I said, there's no value to a labor of love. The hug, the handshake Papa gave me, I have to return it if I have to take money for what I did. Now, putting all of this aside, the point is this. We are dealing with a controversy that actually does not exist. Reuben was not quoting himself. He didn't say I hate Igbo people. He was trying to make inferences based on what he had heard and which nobody had contradicted. And Reuben is a scholar. So maybe the anger was like, look, are you querying what I think? It could have been better handled, but the issues are clearly as simple and straightforward as they can be. When you find that Igbo land with very tiny land mass doesn't have too many people there, you must ask yourself a question. Why would anybody come to the southeast to buy land? Just tell me what business is going on there. Go to the southeast now and cite any massive industry, whether petrochemical, whether you like it or not, wherever you are in the country. If you're made GM, you'll come. Support services will come. Technical people will come. The only thing going on in the southeast in the name of business is the business of the people. If you go to Ogbomosho, check the population. Is it filled up with outsiders? You find Igbos there because they find trading opportunities. They are traders mostly. So let's not mistake an economically and socio-political determined variable. Let's not take it to be a conscious conspiracy. Why didn't Igbos meet and tell Umoru in Enugu, no, don't allocate land? So let's not delude ourselves. There is no incentive for any Nigerian outside the southeast to go there and buy land. There's incentive in Abuja, there's incentive all over the place, because if you buy, you make a lot of money with it. Erufai came here and told us that the lands in Abuja are 80%, I think at least not less than 65% owned by Igbos. Now, were they buying it to keep? It was business opportunity. The rentals in Lagos, the purchases in Lagos for the same reason. So let's contextualize it properly and end this controversy. Yeah.
Okay, Professor. Okay, the incentive in itself might not sometimes be financial, but let's talk about, the Igbo culture. In the Igbo culture, the perception is that land is often seen...
Sorry, please. Sorry.
Yes. I was talking about...
Sorry, before you...
I was talking about the incentive. For example, the example that we've touched on quite a number of times this morning about this man trying to buy land for his daughter and his wife. In that moment, might not necessarily have been strictly financial, but trying to actually invest in his family is the point I'm trying to make. But let's talk about the perception in Igbo culture that land is often seen.
Sorry, please.
Yes,
sorry. Before we run away from that, investment for his daughter and his wife, we must also ask ourselves. Prof Benson was a very sophisticated man, a businessman, somebody in the entertainment industry. If he wanted to make investment for his daughter and his wife, is it to go and build a house in their village? So we might choose to pursue it, but the fact that there's land donated to him at no cost, for me, given our culture and our attitude to in-laws, your in-law, you handle him as an egg so that he doesn't break the egg you gave to him. That's my perception of that land. That is possibly at the time he spoke of land that they say, no, please come, Biko, come and take this one. You are our in-law, you are our brother. That's a possibility I want to look at. The context of his statement, if you had a video, one would have seen whether he was joking or he was laughing or whatever. But he's taken here without the benefit of over 20 years of knowing what happened in that hall. We're seeing it as a statement he solemnly made. I went there to buy land and nobody sold land to me because they said I was an outsider. Who is an outsider?
Well, land in Igbo culture...
So the second point, the issue you wanted to raise about land...
how it's often seen as a communal heritage. How do these debates, especially like the ones that our co-anchors had during the week and the ones that we're having now, impact economic development in the Southeast, especially with respect to investments and partnerships with non-indigenes? I wonder if you would suggest any policy or communal adjustments to address these concerns surrounding land sales to non-indigenes, while also preserving Igbo cultural values?
If I respond to that question in the way you framed it, it will mean admitting there's a policy about selling land to non-indigenes. That policy does not exist. That notion does not exist. That attitude does not exist. Communal ownership means that lands, you know which kindred has which land. The challenge often is that you may have a piece of land here and a piece of land there, and they are the lands of 3 other people in between your own. You now say, okay, I am interested in your land. They say, well, do you have land elsewhere? Let's compare the sizes and we take it in exchange. That's number one. Number two, as a family is growing, you already know that this is a person who will have the main house. If the family has no other lands elsewhere, which is actually the case in most places, including my own place, as you grow older, you go to buy land. My father bought the land on which he built. I bought land also, and with great difficulty. So there is nothing about outsiders. There is just no land. If people are converting their places to cemeteries, because there are so many things that need to be unraveled, and I'm actually glad this whole thing came up, because there's this imaginary perception of this. Oh, you know, they will come here and buy land and do businesses, but they will not sell land to them. They are so insular. They are so nothing of the sort. The communal ownership thing presents a problem from the angle of having land that's big enough for anything big. So to do something, you find negotiations with 3 or 4 families. Somebody may even refuse. You've got 3 sections. There's a third section that will make it the exact size you want. And you say, no, we're not selling our own. We're attached to it. It's a family head who got it so and so centuries ago. All that problem is there. But as for a conscious, deliberate attitude towards outsiders, no. Not at all. Let's look around. I cited Rotini Street, yes, and all the rest of it. So we need not drive a narrative that does not exist. If you say that you don't have too many non-Easterners owning land in the Southeast, that's absolutely correct. If I'm a non-Easterner, there's no reason why I would go there to buy land. Quite frankly. What for? Is it the population? How many of them in the Southeast like to live in another person's house? What business am I going to? Is it that warrant my going there to buy land? Well, there's business in Kano that will make me go to buy land. I can build a hotel. There's business all over the place. There's every reason why I will spend $1 trillion to buy land in Metama in Abuja. If you lease it for 1 year, I'm done for the rest of my life. I mean, for 10 years. So what is it in the East that you have? Businesses, shops, opening and closing at the end of the week. That's why somebody will leave Jigawa and come there. No, he will come there and sell his car, holding only a mat. After selling, he goes back. He has no further incentive to stay on. Somebody comes from Bayelsa, he has something to do and go back. There's nothing to detain him here. You go to Lagos, there's a lot to detain you. The business opportunities are there, the incentives are there, the infrastructure is there, the resources are there. And they also have a metropolitan setting that will drive other businesses that didn't even occur to you before you came. The port is there. If you're not going to be importing and selling, you can service those who are doing that. Please tell me what's going. Taking us out of the Southeast, take Costeris, take a few of the companies out of the Southeast, which are individual investments. Take them out of the Southeast and tell me what kind of region that is. And as I said earlier, where is the rail line in the Southeast? The gas plant we've been talking about all over how to develop this country. What's the gas plant? You say, oh, it was in the what do you call it? In the plant. Where is it in the Southeast? How long did it take to build the second Niger bridge? How long did that take? Right. Onitsha Port has been on the card the first time it was inaugurated. So there are a lot of things there, but the point is, as I'm saying, I'm calling for objectivity. I'm calling for clear, critical thinking. I'm calling for a sense of responsibility in addressing national issues. And I think Ruben threw up a matter that has enabled us to clarify something. And I repeat, his opening engagement in this was not his own statement, it was reported speech. As annoying as later observations may be to some of us and everybody, the fact remains that in that initial intervention, it was a reference. Why are we not angry that he started by praising Igbos? It was also opinions he had heard and accepted. And this time, the second instance, Benson, well, we assume he's not flippant, yes, but a statement that's over 20, 30 years old, without the person, without the benefit of a videotape, we can solemnize it, whereas he doesn't have that status in history. That's my submission.
All right, Prof. I mean, very good submission indeed. I mean, you've put a very useful clarification, to this whole subject matter. But before we let you go, I would like you to comment further slightly on the important aspect of all this that you have raised, which has to do with the fact that yes, even if land is available for outsiders, Yoruba, Hausa, Delta, Lebanese, what is there in Igbo land to attract a non-resident, which is important? And I think that this will be a question, therefore, for not just the authorities in government in all the 5 states of the Southeast, but to also the billionaires and businessmen of Igbo extraction who are mostly outside of that region. You know, for a number of times, the Igbos are compared to the Jews in terms of how proficient they are, how industrious they are. But of course, nobody will say that the Jews have not done anything in their homeland of Israel. We know of how powerful they are in terms of military base, in terms of agriculture, in terms of IT and everything. Why do you think that ideal development has eluded the Igbo land in spite of the, huge number of billionaires, huge number of talented people who can turn that place into another Lagos, beyond Lagos or Abuja, into a mini Dubai and things like that. That was the whole point of Aba and the revolution that was meant to happen there, but which we never saw. Why do you think that this has endured for a while? This unenviable reality that there's no point going there to want to buy land, even if you have the authority to buy land.
Well, you're bringing up a very touchy issue, but a crucial one. The problem of group cohesion is as simple as that. The equal to any philosophy, I can do it. You're not the one who put the roof in my house, so you can't tell me what to do. But critically and very seriously, there is a crisis in that region. My perception of it, which may be mistaken, that's at the elite level. I have billions, I have brilliant ideas, I begin to execute them. Whereas if I took the trouble to talk with 1 or 2 other people who have billions like me, we can have economies of scale, we can make greater impact, since none of us is contesting elections, etc. So turn it around and look at it this way. 1981, I was staying with my uncle in Zaria, and I noted that all the cabs, all the taxis, then there were really very few buses. All the taxis in Zaria were green in color, that's the color of the taxi, and it would be difficult to find any of them that the number was not OYO. Oyo, or Ogu, so that sort of thing. So we're talking about it, and then something struck me. Much later, if you go to Oyo to register your car, that's revenue going into Oyo State, but you come to drive it. It was conscious, and eventually I spoke with somebody from that part of the country, and that hit me. Now, what's the attitude of the man from the Southeast when he's in other parts of the country? And I say this with a sense of responsibility as an adult, and as a Nigerian, and as an Igbo man. In reverse order, first as an Igbo person, somebody of Igbo extraction, not an Igbo man, because manhood is spiritual, not Igbo. You have Seriki Hausa in many places, and you have Ezigbo in many places. In the case of Seriki Hausa, it's often the northern elder leadership behind the scene that determines who becomes the Seriki Hausa in any place. Question: who is it that determines who becomes Ezigbo in different parts of the country? Is it a group consensus? No. But if the Ezigbo does something wrong, I say that Igbo people have come again. You have an Ezigbo in a Joy state. In an estate, there's a king, right? So that's at that level of limited group cohesion. Then elite consensus. Then also the challenge of the intelligentsia. If you go around, you find that, and I've taken time to study this in the last 9 years, the Igbos have probably 3-4 times more WhatsApp groups than others. And you say that for some who are somewhat tangentially conscious of the challenge, they mistake WhatsApp activism for interventions and say, share this until everybody knows what is going on. Then you look at the security challenge in the Southeast. Look, you're talking about why the millionaires are not coming together. The governors, are they coming together seriously and not right now? It took Peter Obi, who was not part of their party, to hold them together while he was in Abga. Did they come together to bury Ojukwu, the greatest hero they've had since the 70s, since the 60s? Was they not changed? Did all of them contribute what they needed to? Why was the date shifted? We just concluded the burial of Chief Iwanyanwu, fortunately with some glory. I was chairman of the publicity and the media committee. How was that supported by Igbos? When would I rally around their heroes? How was Ekweme buried? Was the memory, political consciousness of those who mark the steps that are bringing Igbos to where they are? So if you talk of Igbo development, some people will hold a meeting and say, yes, we have a plan, we have plans. Like you find yourself invited to some of them, how to develop the Southeast, and I ask, are any of the governors represented in this meeting? No. I say this is political illiteracy. The lands are under them. You're planning a road. You don't have the resources, etc. So to come back to your question and in very substantive terms, we need greater cohesion in the Southeast. And political leadership can help with that. But when the big and major players are fighting each other, as you can see that happening, it becomes a question of man past man, as they say in local parlance. So coming together with all the billions to develop the Southeast will be good. But as things stand today, and given the disposition of many of those who are in a position, who are capable of doing that, the challenge is that of who will be at the head of the table. That's part of the challenge. But why I don't say it's a challenge is that each person can be doing the bit he can at his own level. There's the other thing also about the Igbo spirit. If I discover that you're giving water to your village, you're building roads, giving scholarships, the competitive spirit, positive competitive spirit, okay, he can uproot an Iroko. I too can uproot 2 Irokos. That's the kind of competition you're likely to find, that where those billionaires begin to make interventions, the other one will say, how can his town look better than my own? No. We're all here. Let those who are going to see his own in the next 18 months is my own, they'll be coming to. That's the sort of thing that needs to happen. But the major crisis of lack of political cohesion remains the greatest misfortune of the Southeast as I speak. Because whether as a voice at the national level, whether through Ohanese, that they should rally round, whether through youth leaders, among other things, the crisis remains. You hear more than one voice on most issues, and this doesn't sound well outside Igbo land, and it needs to be resolved.
Confirm. Now, what do you think about the whole matter? Comparing what Professor Ikechukwu said and what Dr. Ruben Abati said. In case if you have never seen that of Dr. Ruben Abati, check this out on my YouTube video list. Go through it so that after you can be able to make a good and a wise comment about the whole issue. And of course, you know the vibe now. Click on that subscribe button, follow, and share for more updates. Because like this, we move.